Right now we're going to be talking about sex a little, and we're going to share 3 sort of approaches that people do when they are dealing with the concept of advice and sex, and especially things like dating and how do you approach women. So definitely something marketed toward more of the hetero male community. When I was younger, I really struggled a lot with things like dating and how to approach women. Like, what do you say? What do you do? How do you even strike up a conversation? I mean, so many people really would come at this in sort of a kind of an impractical way. They would be like, hey, there's just going to be this girl at a party. I'm going to tell her a few nice things about you, and then you should talk to her at the party. And it's like, that approach most likely does not work. It definitely did not, during these sort of college years, ages 18 to 22. Now, let's sort of look at a few examples. The first one is, I asked a woman once, I was about 20 years old at the time, and I asked a woman, just flat out, what am I doing wrong? I mean, you could even pretty much call me an incel. I mean, we didn't really have the term incel, meaning involuntary celibate, but I asked the girl, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Why am I not a dateable guy? And I was ready to just hear the harshest thing she could say. I wanted my dose of brutal honesty because I wanted to improve. I didn't like where I was. So, I just asked her, what am I doing wrong? And she just simply said, there is nothing wrong with you. Did you ever think that maybe it's the girls you're approaching that are the problem? And I was like, yeah, I get it. You're trying to be optimistic and uplifting and, saying some kind words. But at the same time, I really did need those genuine criticisms about what I was doing wrong. Obviously, I wanted, to be in a relationship. I wanted to be sort of sexually active. I wanted to have a hot girlfriend, and I wanted to be nailing her every night. I mean, I really just sort of needed kind of a harder reality check. The second thing I'll say is, later on, though, about 2 years later, somebody gave me some criticism. This was another woman, different girl. She gave me some criticism when she said, you're a nice guy, but you need to filter some of the things that you say. And I was like, well, it was hard for me to sort of accept that, because at the time, I didn't really ask her for her opinion about anything, and we always have to remember, it's not only what you say, but how you say it. And I was like, what about all of this grade school education that people talk about? Just be yourself. What about that? What about, everyone is special, that song they used to sing on Sesame Street growing up? Is all of that true? Well, now the third thing we need to say is, that stuff isn't true. Be yourself? No. I mean, you don't get to just sort of be loud and obnoxious and demand that people like you. That's what leads to sense of entitlement disorder. At the same time, more on the end where I was, you don't get to just be awkward, too quiet, too shy, nothing interesting to say, no stimulating moments in your conversations, and, doing absolutely nothing to excite the girl in any way, and demand that you should be in a relationship. That one doesn't work either. So this whole notion of be yourself, you're special, you're fine just the way you are, which is what that one girl tried to tell me the first time back when I was 20 years old. The real thing that just needs to come down to it is, you just have to start thinking about the we and us as opposed to the I and me. Because, that's just one of the things that isn't really taught too much in our education system. How many times did everybody tell you, just be yourself? Though that's not acceptable if you're obnoxious or if you're awkward. I mean, you aren't going to be able to be maintaining a functioning sexual relationship with someone if you're just chaotic and problematic. The girl is just going to leave you. Even if you actually do succeed in, some sort of sexual encounter, she's not going to stay with you if you're too obnoxious or if you're too awkward or if you just say things that she doesn't want to talk about that make her feel bad. I mean, she's going to leave because, let's face it, girls can find partners much more easily than guys can. In most cultures, globally, men approach women, so women know how to respond to these things. I would say, though, that some of the things, though, that also kind of were holding me back when I was younger is I'm sitting around complaining about why I don't have a girlfriend. I'm sitting around thinking, what am I doing wrong? Remember, I asked a girl direct question, tell me why I'm not a dateable guy. It was more of the imperative command. And it's like, at the same time, I wasn't really on any dating sites trying to talk to anybody. That was 10 years ago, and at that time, dating sites were still somewhat taboo for the younger users. But now, we have things like Tinder, and most people use OkCupid. I mean, they've tried it at least once. I didn't have any good results. I don't recommend it, but I know most people in their 20s that I know have at least had some sort of encounter with OkCupid. The thing is, though, I'm sitting around, I'm like, why don't I have a girlfriend? At the same time, I'm not asking girls out. I'm not on dating sites. I'm not really talking to women in anything other than sort of a friendship way, or perhaps in a, someone sitting next to you in class or something like that, and you make casual conversation. That's not stimulating. I mean, no. I mean, it's just like, so the first thing is, that I realized was you just have to talk to more people, even if you don't like it. I mean, you aren't going to be in a relationship if you aren't just going to go out and just take those first steps. Talk to people at bars, at parties, whatever, but also be involved with dating sites, like maybe at least 5 different dating platforms. We're talking about make 4 profiles on different dating sites and have a Tinder, and use it regularly, every single day, because it's just, numbers go into this. I mean, if you're just looking for a relationship and you want to be in a monogamous relationship, and it's okay for guys to want that. Many guys I know actually do want that. They don't like dating because of all the awkwardness that we mentioned and all these sort of ups and downs, like the rejections. Yeah, you get a few victories, but then there are a lot of rejections. It's like, I mean, even guys I know that get laid frequently, I mean, they get rejected maybe 50 or 60 times every time they find a winner. Like every time they find, someone that wants to be with them. And we're talking about all the conversations with people that just don't want anything to do with you. I mean, it can be kind of brutal sometimes, but in reality, different people want different things, and that's sort of the short end of the story. But when we approach giving advice about sexual encounters, in dating in general, I know I keep focusing on sex, but this is really a dating issue. Sometimes you have to go beyond what that first girl said and just kind of accept it how it is. Just accept that there is nothing wrong with you. I mean, maybe there are things that are wrong with you. And I say that in the most honest, friendly, and welcoming way. And that second person who gave me the advice, filter the things that you say. Don't be too obnoxious. Don't be too awkward. Start thinking about us as opposed to just me. Someone else also talked to me about this a couple years later. This is even, farther down the line. And to paraphrase what he said, it was like, if something is fun for you, but not fun for anyone else, you shouldn't do it. And that includes things like being too quiet. I mean, that includes things like being too loud. I mean, once again, it's about the group. It's about us. Because, the smallest group is a group of 2. And you also just have to be somewhat aware of what the other woman is feeling. I don't mean be overly sensitive to emotions. No, not at all. What I mean is be aware of what she wants to hear. How are you going to just, attract somebody if you aren't thinking about what they want? What does this girl want to hear? And there's no blanket statement that you can just throw around and, use any sort of pickup lines on women that they're going to fall for. Think about the woman. What does she want to hear? As an individual, what does this particular person want? And try your best. You might even fail. But if you're honest and you're respectful, you have nothing to feel bad about. And, if you tried your best to think about you and the girl as a group of 2, you might fail, but you have nothing to feel bad about. And sometimes, though, you can approach people and you can ask them, about, hey, Be honest with me. Is there something that I'm doing wrong when it comes to approaching women and talking about dating and such? And then if they give you that sort of just be yourself answer, say, well, I know you're trying to be encouraging, but right now, I really need that dose of brutal honesty. Do you notice anything that I'm doing wrong? And we need to be accepting of those things, because that's how we improve. Well, that's all for me now. If you have anything to say at all, any comments, drop them below, and until next time.